Hello folks and welcome to another pre-modern video. Here we are back after a pretty long hiatus, and actually for a very short period of time I was able to only play 3 matches from this league, but still I was too excited to try it out, and I have many different decks that I wanted to check out that I've been thinking about all this time. I remained somewhat active in Discord and other places, so if you want to reach me you can find me there, but yeah, I've not had time to record until today. And of course, since we're only going to be able to play a couple of matches, I had to make those count. And I am, of course, going to be playing with the one and only Aluren. Of course, my favorite deck in the format. I actually had multiple decks that I wanted to try out, but if I was only able to play one league, I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be able to play. So I wanted to make sure that it's my favorite deck ever. I haven't really changed that much since the last time that I ran the deck, because I have been, well, not playing that much, so I haven't really been able to make that many changes. So if you want like a very in-depth deck, I recommend you go check out that video. Yeah, to make like a quick rundown, we're doing it's a combo deck with Raven Familiar, Aluren, and Cavern Harpy. You play all your stuff for free, and then what you do is because you're playing at instant speed, you can play your Harpy, hold priority, play your Raven Familiar, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then you play your you pay the life on your Harpy to bounce your Raven Familiar. This allows you to play around removal spells, which is pretty nice. Eventually you assemble Manowar plus Spike Feeder. So Spike Feeder plus Manowar plus Cavern Harpy means infinite life. And then Manowar, Harpy, Wall of Roots means infinite green mana. And then once you have infinite mana, once again, Spike Feeder comes in and now it makes all of your dudes infinitely large. So that's going to be the actual kill. The way that we beat stuff is by using survival to accrue card advantage and to set up our combo from a very low base. Like it's actually this card is insane in the deck. I strongly recommend, if you haven't tried survival, Alluring with survival, I strongly recommend you do. You will feel the power. And the nice thing about this build of the deck is that you don't really have anything that you can't beat in game one. So Sphere of Resistance has gone down in popularity pretty significantly lately, but it doesn't beat us because we have Utabi that we can then bounce with our Manowar to basically destroy as many spheres as our opponent has access to. And then Monk Realist allows us to beat stuff like Engineered Plague or something like Sulfuric Vortex. We also have interaction in the form of Source to Plowshare, so that allows us to beat Meddling Mages. And yeah, we can also beat Meddling Mages, which I have done multiple times by just making Spike Feeders pretty large and then attacking through them or forcing awkward chumps for your opponent. The big draw to this version of the deck is the mana base. The mana base is really stable. Your colors come clutch very often and very easily. And even though it is still fairly painful, especially the reflecting pools do a lot of work here, but all in all your mana ends up working out fairly well, to not say really well. So you have a bunch of basics, so Wasteland doesn't actually destroy you, same thing with Price of Progress, and then you have a reasonable amount of blue sources, but by having access to a bunch of basic plains and forest thanks to your fetch lands, your mana is actually quite stable. We also have access to some Wall of Blossoms and Wall of Roots, which allow you to play a pretty solid game against the aggressive strategies, and then Library, which allows you to grind against control. In the sideboard, we have some Santi Swarm. I'm actually playing a 3rd copy, the best card that you can have against the Dreadnought and control strategies. And then I also wanted to add a singleton copy of Gaia's Blessing. I do think that the Devourer's deck were pretty much a flash in the pan. I don't think that's really going to, come back. I think that those decks are just a tad too inconsistent, and you need to like run hotter than the sun, which is what the guys at LobsterCon did. But I do think that Gaia's Blessing has a pretty significant value, especially against shrimp decks and against other brain freeze decks that try to fight you post board on that axis. You can kind of make sure that you don't draw your blessing as you're going off, and then this just being in your deck means that they cannot cheese you out of the game, which they oftentimes do. So I think that there's a ton of value in having a singleton copy of Gaia's Blessing in your sideboard. I would love to have a second one, but I don't think I was able to figure out a cut. I actually cut a second copy of Hydroblast, so this is going to make us better against control, but slightly worse against the red decks. But yeah, Gilded Drake is a banger. 4th copy of Manowar. This card always overperforms in my experience, so we have a 4th copy in the sideboard, and then some extra Source to Plowshares, Ray of Revelation, Oromancer, all of the good cards that you expect to see. The nice thing about this build of the deck is that we are able to keep a pretty solid creature count in post-hybrid the game, so you end up having access to 24 plus creatures in basically every sideboard of the game with any configuration, so that's very, very nice. That's going to be it for this deck tech. I'll see you for round number 1, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And here we go. It's been a minute. We're on the play against Skoda. This hand looks decent. Can go turn 1 basic plains. If we find a forest or any sort of painless source, we can go survival on turn 2. And we have the combo already rolled up, so as long as we hit our land drops, if we find any land in the first couple of turns, we should be pretty much good to go. Let's see what we're up against. Bloodstained Is Shane still rocking burn? Yes, he is. Yeah, I'm gonna go with... Do I need to play this out? I don't think I need to play the survival. I think I'm just gonna play Abimaya Coast, and I'm just going to pass the turn. Actually, this represents 1 point of damage, and this makes... I may regret this, but this represents only a single point of damage, and this means that now every wall of roots I find off of Raven Familiar gets me closer to the win. Also, if he plays Vortex on turn 3, this actually gives me an out. Otherwise, I'm just cold to that. There's Slavamancer into Mog Fanatic. So far, we're looking good. That's actually a great draw. So I'm going to play City of Brass, and I'm just going to pass the turn here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this Cavern Harpy into a Sligh, and then another one, and then next turn I can just land Aluren. So yeah, it was actually, I think, a good choice to go for survival. So now he's going to swing, only 3. That's okay. Curse Scroll is good for me. Okay, now we have it. Now we have it locked up. So we're just going to take 2 points. Let's think for a second. This can activate for 1. That's 2 damage. Assume worst case scenario for me is Fire Blast. So this is 6 damage. I'm at 7. Yeah, we have more than enough life, so I'm gonna go for it. So pitch Cavern Harpy, get Sligh, and then we're going to pitch Sligh to get another Harpy. So now any wall of roots we find off of the Raven Familiar actually represents me finding the combo. Now we untap, get back Sligh, we deal the damage here, this is fine. Play Treva's, down City of Brass, cast Aluren. And as soon as this resolves, now Spike Feeder is... Now we should be good to go. So we cast our Harpy first, trigger on the stack, we cast our Raven Familiar, resolve our trigger, none of these cards matter, so we're just gonna get whatever. Bounce Familiar, pay 1 life to bounce the Harpy, and repeat. So this is deterministic from here, but my opponent does not know that, because they don't know that I already have the Spike Feeder rolled up. Mana War, it's another look, which is nice, but even assuming worst case scenario, we're good to go here. And there we go. There's the wall, gonna cast the wall, see if this resolves. Cast Feeder, and now he scoops it up. Alright, cool. Starting 1-0 against Burn always feels good. We are gonna bring in our removal spells. We want Ray of Revelation. We do not want Meddling Mages. And I'm not sure about Uktavi. I don't think we want Uktavi. I think we can very easily play through Curse Scroll, just because it's so mana intensive. Really, the only card that we actually care about is Sulfuric Vortex. I could see Naturalize over the Ray, but I don't want to overboard in this matchup. I also don't really like the birds, but I don't think... Actually, we can cut the library, so maybe Mana War is better than the library. Diminishes my fizzle rate a little bit. Now we're going to be on the draw. This hand looks pretty decent though, so I'm going to keep. Having a painless green source is super nice. Turn to wall is kind of our best play. And we also have a Spike Feeder. Oh, we already have the survival, so we can throw away the Spike Feeder, exchange it for 3 life, basically at no cost. He molds to 5. Turn 1 Fanatic. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I have to value this painless green source very highly. I'm not gonna fetch for now. Second Fanatic, he's only on a 1-lander. We're just gonna fetch for Forest, Willow Blossoms. This is gonna be kind of interesting here. We're gonna have a lot of options. Easy block. I think I'm gonna go for survival. We'll see if he throws away a bolt to kill my Willow Blossoms, I mean. He doesn't. I think we can turn this turn off at a virtual 15, but then I can refuel starting next turn with Spike Feeder. Notably, we can also go get Monk Realist. He incinerates on end step. We're gonna block a point of damage. End step, pitch Sligh. I think we're just gonna go get Wall of Roots. Oh, sure. I guess I'll win. Cool. So now we just win at our leisure. Sounds good to me. Although I guess he can have Hydroblast, which would be a little bit annoying. Okay, he's tapping out, so now he's dead. Wall of Roots, pitch Sligh, go find Raven Familiar. Now we do the thing. And there you go. quick 2-0 overburn. So any mana war is the actual win, like that one. That one counts as a mana war. I think Shane is trying to figure out if there's any holes in my game plan, but there isn't. Here I'm actively forcing him to discard the Mog Fanatic. Yeah, so now I can actually just pay this again, and I bounce my Harpy again, and I cast it, and I save and now we just do the thing. And now that there are no Mog Fanatics anymore, I'm good to combo to gain infinite life. There we go, 2-0 over. On to match number 2. This hand looks keepable. It's not insane or anything, but it's somewhat clean. Playing against Carplucent Forest Goblin Lackey. Oh man. Man, this is the kind of hand that if we were on the play, we would be like 90% to win this game. But since we're on the draw, that makes things a lot tougher. I'm gonna take 1. Let's see what the Lucky brings out. War Chief. That's pretty scary. Matron. Till my opponent fetches with this Matron. Fortunately for me, they don't really have any information, so Ringleader, which is a fine pickup in the blind. Obviously, the better thing would have been for my opponent to get something like a Siege Gang there, or like actually the cycling guy, Gem Palm. Even Pile Driver would have been a better pickup. Pile Driver would be kind of a beating here. Really hoping my opponent doesn't have one of those. Goblin King. Oof. Okay. We may be just a tad too slow, unfortunately. Ah, that's a pickup. So I pitch 1. Next turn I take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I go to 1. Because I have 2 options here. I can go cast Uktabi just to defend, or I can play Survival and pitch this Monk Realist to set up getting the Raven Familiar to then set up the Harpy. The problem is if my opponent plays any Goblin, I'm in serious trouble. So I guess I just have to hope they don't have Sharpshooter if I'm going for that. Those are the 2 alternatives. I think I'm going to go for Survival. And this turn I guess I'm going to block the War Chief just so I can have 1 more life. It's Prospector. If they don't have another Goblin, well, that's a Goblin, alright. So I'm just dead. On to game number 2. We like Source to Plowshares, all of these things. We want Oromancer, Mana War. We do not want Uktabi. We do not want Monk Realist. And we can cut Sylvan Library. Actually, I think I may like Sylvan Library over Meddling Mages. Yeah, this looks okay. Let's go with this. Man, that's such a brutal outcome. This is the kind of game that play draw marks a very clear difference. The turn 1 Lackey draw into a wall to make matters even worse. On the play for the second game, this hand looks okay, I guess. I think I'm gonna lead on Wastes. The good thing is that my opponent killed me so quickly that they don't really have any information about what I'm actually doing here. So now we can Hydroblast this Lackey. The reason to lead on this instead of leading on the Windswept Heath or whatever is that I don't really know what I'm supposed to get yet, and by leading on a Darker Wastes, I'm delaying the decision. Pile Driver. Actually kind of awkward that I cannot bounce it with Mana War. Funnily enough. Alright, so we're gonna fetch twice for 2 basic forests. And we're gonna play out the Spike Feeder. Good old Spike Feeder holding the fort here. Port into my City of Brass. Sad times. That's a War Chief. That one I can actually bounce. Look at that. Look at that Spike Feeder doing work. Reflecting Pool is a great pickup. So now we can go this. Bounce the War Chief. Some little Time Walk action. Now we have like a slightly better board position. Bear the Paradise. So let's start with Familiar. Let's see what my opponent's cooking with over there. Survival. That's a nice draw. It's a very nice draw. So let's pick that up. And actually, I think I'm gonna go for City of Brass, just to force my opponent to use their mana on that if they want to do anything. And I think I'm just hanging out here. We're holding up the Spike Feeder counter. We can always bounce the City of Brass with the Treva's Ruins, which is nice. But I think that developing my mana is more important here, especially because it costs my opponent a turn. Prospector, you got it. Sharpshooter. That one is a little bit annoying. Okay, so they put a damage on the Spike Feeder, and I guess they're gonna sack Prospector. Oof, another Pile Driver's insane. So I guess gaining life is more relevant than putting a counter on the other thing, so just gonna gain life. The nice thing here is that the War Chief can't actually attack, and they should not attack with the Sharpshooter, so I'm only taking 6 here. The awkward part is that I kind of have to let this Raven Familiar die. Can I afford to have it not die? If I pay Echo, nah, I cannot pay Echo, because I'm going to need all the green mana to pitch this bird. Man, that Sharpshooter was a really big deal. And it needed to be exactly Sharpshooter into Prospector, so that they can actually do the first thing, and they can actually kill my Spike Feeder, which unlocks their Pile Drivers to attack. That's really unfortunate. So this means that my Mana War dies, and then I go play Survival, spend 1 mana to pitch the bird. Yeah, I think I have to do this. I have to let the River Familiar go, which means that the mana war dies. It's not great. So play Survival, pitch the bird to get Squee, pitch Squee to get Wall of Blossoms, cast Wall of Blossoms. But now I'm going to be taking a gazillion damage, so we use the wall to chomp here. We take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so any goblin here actually kills me. Yeah, this was rough. We were pretty close this game. Like my opponent's cards just lined up very, very well. But yeah, here we're just deterministically dead. Alright, good games. On to 1 and 1. On to round number 3. We're on the draw this time around. This hand looked good enough. Let's keep it. Opponent on the 61 card special. Basic Plains. Monk Realist. Not the best draw, but it's okay. Let's lead on Burst of Paradise. My opponent wants to plow that, it's totally fine. They do. A Darker Waste. Quiet Speculation. Oh, we're playing against, I assume, the Tireless Tribe deck? I haven't actually faced this deck with Aluren. Will be an interesting one. There goes a wall. Pass the turn back. Wall pretty good against Call of the Herd. Not as good against Roar of the Worm. Definitely quite good against... do I play around Mana Leak here? That's a question. I think I do. I don't. I think I just jam while my opponent doesn't have access to the flashback of Fury of Revelation. Wasteland. I'm gonna take a point of damage here. Pitch Monk Realist. Get Squee. Pitch Squee. Get Bird. Play my Bird. And sheep the turn back. Opponent choosing not to Wasteland, notably. Maybe they're setting up something like Armageddon? It could be. I mean, we're looking very good here. Let's go for Raven. And I'm just gonna jam this Alluren, I think. Let's go for that. And I guess I'm gonna lead on this right now, because I may find a land, like that one. And now we can just win whenever we want. I guess I want to do that on my opponent's upkeep, because I'm gonna have the Wall of Roots mana by then. Here's Harpy, and there goes the Harpy. And now we just combo. Get Wall of Blossoms. I'm explaining the combo to my opponent, and we move on. So this seems like a matchup where Swords to Plowshares will be pretty relevant. Definitely want Auramancer, and I definitely want Sylvan Library. I guess I do want Mana War as well. Lots of things that I want. Do I... I guess Wall of Blossom does work quite well. I'm gonna cut a couple of birds. I guess I'm actually gonna cut Swords to Plowshares, and I will cut the Octavi. I'm assuming that they don't have Curse Totem since it stops their own Tireless Tribe, so I'm gonna risk not having Octavi. I guess I could also cut the Monk. That's an interesting question. I think I'd rather go for the bird. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this setup. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it could be so many things. Like my opponent could be playing Oath. They could be playing something like Worship. But I can beat Worship by just bouncing their entire board and then naming it with Melee Mage. So that's not concerning. Yeah, it's mainly that would be annoying. Curse Totem. This draw seems fine, actually. Yeah, I think this is cool. Treetop Village. I'm gonna lead on Basic Forest to play around both Wasteland, and because I may draw Sylvan Library, so I may want to have access to the Windswept Heath. I kinda suspect that my opponent's actually doing some different thing over there. They're playing Oath, which obviously means that my sideboarding is not ideal. Playing Heath there to play around Wasteland. There comes the port. I guess I'm gonna go for a white source here. Pass the turn. Yep, there we go. Gonna port me on upkeep. Interesting. That's an interesting one to port. So I'm going to play a Darker Wastes, and we're gonna go Wall of Roots, and I'm gonna name Terravor with the Melee Mage, so that then I can use Mana War to bounce my opponent's Terravor. I've actually been thinking about this deck. That was another one of the decks that I considered playing for my glorious comeback. That's a Mox. And my opponent could Armageddon here, but it doesn't actually put them in a great spot, because I still have 2 walls. There's the Worm. So I could bounce both of these. Let's start here with Raven Familiar. Oh, my opponent could have Mana Leak. Didn't think about Mana Leak. Oh, that's a good pickup. Let's go with that. And I do suspect my opponent's got a Gaddon in hand. So here I'm just gonna bounce the Terravor, because I can just chomp the Worm token. Guess my opponent could plow the Meddling Mage. It does make sense. There's another Terravor. Cataclysm. There's the Ray. We're not in the best spot here. Just take the free chomp block here, because I'm not paying Echo for this. I need my mana to do other things next turn. Then flipping that Ray is kind of a big deal. Let's say Yavi Maya Coast. opponent choosing not to use the Rishadan port there. That's super surprising. That's very surprising. So we're going to pitch the Mana War. My opponent's gonna Ray in response. I'm just gonna go get Auramancer. Oh, they let me go? Definitely pretty happy about that. I think I'm gonna have to get Mana War here, unfortunately, because the second Terror just kills me. A little bit unfortunate, but I'm a little bit against the wall. With my back against the wall, that is. Yeah, so obviously the mistake here is I sideboarded against the Tireless Tribe deck, and my opponent is playing an Oath of Druids deck, so gonna be sideboarding quite differently for game 3. There goes the Ray of Revelation. We're gonna get to most of their deck, honestly, down to 8 cards. So they have Volcanic Spray, that's hot. Yeah, this is something that people have been discussing in the Terravore Discord. I think it's a neat idea. This looks good enough for me. I don't think I need to see anything else. So, Ray of Revelation comes in, Monk Realist comes in, and there's 2 cuts that I need to make. I think one of them, I guess I just want to cut the swords. Could also lean harder on Meddling Mage. Go with that. I could also cut the Allurance. Oh, Gilded Drake. Definitely want Gilded Drake over Wall of Blossoms. Cool, I was able to make the change. This, I guess, looks okay. So this hand gets a little bit hosed by my opponent having turn 1 Oath, but c'est la vie. I like that we have access to Auramancer. Also, I didn't see any counter magic out of my opponent. When it moves to 6, nothing. Play wall. That's not great. Play my land, ship the turn back. This is not looking great. Mox, pitching, Wasteland. Not super concerned about the Mox. Slightly more concerned about that. Survival is a great draw though. So let's play a land. Get a basic Plains. Play Survival. And I guess we're going to allow my opponent 1 trigger. So we're going to pitch Spike Feeder to go get Squee. And now we pass the turn. We already have the Auramancer, which is nice. So this Oath is going to trigger once. There's a Terravore. Not too big. Wasteland doesn't do anything. Beautiful mana base. And now we have access to Monk Realist, so we're kind of cooking here. Pitch Squee for Monk, untap, return Squee, second survival is great. Play Monk, blow up the Oath, play my land, and pitch Squee for another for a Wall of Roots, I guess. So we have more mana. We can also go get the Gilded Drake. Yeah, actually that sounds better. Take that one, thank you very much. Next turn we can go get Mana War. Enlighten Tutor. They get another Oath. That's very good for me. If they spend their entire turn casting an Oath of Druids, it's going to leave me in very good shape. They pay 4. There's Oath. Do they have the answer to Survival? Okay, I'll take 3. They need the answer for the Survival. Okay, they do. They have Ray. This is still fine though. Squee comes back. Meddling Mage. So I can swing 5. I think that sounds good. Like Survival, pitch, Squee, get Mana War. I'm just gonna value my opponent to Oblivion. Trigger your Oath, my friend. Trigger your Oath if you so desire. 5/5 Terravores. So now my opponent can flashback Ray, kill Survival. I still eat their Terravore. Ray goes after Survival. Only a single card in hand. I guess it needs to be exactly Armageddon. Flashback Roar of the Worm's not gonna be enough. Throw the Squee. So I name Armageddon? Meddling Mage. We name Cataclysm. And then play Gilded Drake. Steal the Terravore. So now my opponent actually cannot trigger Oath, because if they do, that grows my Terravores past the side of the Worm token. And now next turn I can go take 3 down to 13, play Auramancer, get back Survival, play Survival, get another Mana War, and set up the kill for the following turn. But I think we got the lock here. Yep, they choose not to trigger. They know what's coming. So I guess Armageddon would be the only thing that saves them here, which to be honest would be quite annoying, but them playing out the Treetop Village probably means that they don't have Armageddon. Okay, Meddling Mage locks that as a possibility. Armageddon. I guess technically they could cast and flashback Volcanic Spray, so I guess I'm naming that. I feel like that's the only way that I lose. I guess Swords to Plowshares plus Cataclysm could be annoying as well. And now we're setting up the kill for next turn by casting Auramancer, getting back Survival, holding onto the land. When it still cannot trigger Oath, or otherwise they lose. I guess I may want to bounce this Undiscovered Paradise now that I think about it. So I think I'm going to be tapping it for mana on end step. No, I guess that this is the turn that they need to have Armageddon, so doesn't really make a difference. It's also pretty cool that because my opponent cannot trigger Oath, they cannot reset the top of their deck for library. Opponent doesn't Wasteland. Here's Survival. Oh, they have a null? Alright, that means we play for a little bit longer. Oh, they actually cannot Wasteland me, because if they Wasteland, then my Terravores grow. Do I have enough to swing? They block here, take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh no, they have the treetop, never mind. Yeah, I guess we can't attack. So we're in a little bit of a stalemate. But I guess this stalemate benefits me because I have many more good draws. If I draw Harpy, I win. If I draw another Survival, I win. If I draw Mana War, Raven Familiar is a redraw. Bird. I guess I'll play that out. So now I'm playing out lands because my opponent can't actually afford to Armageddon because that grows my Terravores. And step, they plow one of my boars. Okay. Are they gonna trigger Oath now? They are. Interesting. Man, a null. Opponent can't really attack for now though. 3 mana, Aura of Silence. Sure. That doesn't actually do anything. Got many draws that win the game. That's actually one of them. Let's see if their last card in hand is another annul. Looks like it's not. Squee. And now we actually have a choice. I'm gonna go for Mana War. I could go for Cavern Harpy. That's the highest value draw. But I think I'm gonna go for Mana War. I am gonna steal the Drake, however. I'm not gonna steal the Terravore. I could bounce the Terravore, but I think this is a more, I don't want to say coward, but probably like an accurate way to describe it. So if I swing with everything, they trade. Now we're just gonna chill. Just gonna hang out here. They can destroy my survival by flashing back the ray. That's okay. There goes survival. I could have gotten Cavern Harpy last turn, but if my opponent's last card in hand is a Source to Plowshares, then I actually lose the game because I'm forced to bounce one of my mages or the Harpy itself because they can just plow the Mana War in response. So this, I think, it's a much better line. There's another one of those. I think this turn I'm returning the Undiscovered Paradise, if my opponent allows me to. Because now we're getting to a point where it may be good for my opponent to actually give in the option. They may have sided out their Armageddons though. But if they go plow Cataclysm, we may actually be in trouble. They attack? That can't be right. So I just take it? I think I just take it. Because then I steal. They can't block past my Terravore. Yeah, I think this is just, I take 13. I may be getting baited here, but I think I'm supposed to do that. I doubt this Quiet Speculation gets anything of value here. I would be very surprised if that's the case. Deep Analysis, Call of the Herd. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. Deep Analysis looking for Source to Plowshares. I mean, if they do find Source to Plowshares, there, we're in a spot where they can plow their own Terravore in response and gain a bunch of life, and that fizzles my Gilded Drake. It's an interesting draw, but I don't think it does anything. Oh, actually it did do something. No, actually it doesn't. Never mind. No, yeah, okay, there you go. So that fizzles the Gilded Drake. Now they go to 20. Oh man. So I swing with everything. They block here. They take 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I guess they're forced to chomp the Terravore. This means they take 18. Can bring that down to 2. Okay. I have to set up lethal over 2 turns now. Pivot. I gotta set up lethal over 2 turns. So I'm gonna use my Terravore to chomp my opponent's wall, jumps in front of Treetop. Squee jumps in front of Worm. And we see where we go from here. Mana War, I guess, gives me the game. They have Call of the Herd to flashback. They didn't Oath, notably. Oh, they're out of Terravores. They're out of Terravores. Well, that changes things. They're also out of Source to Plowshares. So I think we got this one. Because we have live outs, but they don't. Volcanic Spray is locked out. Yep. Trade here. Unless they have something like Reprisal, I think we're good to go now. Because they're gonna deck before we do. Oh, they just Cataclysm here? Oh, Flashback Elephant's not a good draw. So we just pass the turn. No more Terravores available. This has been a super interesting game. Doesn't look like my opponent has access to Corrosion Reclamation, so that means we just chomp with Squee. Wasteland my land, sure. Wasteland the other land, also sure. Squee comes back. Another wall. Here's Squee. Thinking whether I want to cast these walls. I don't think I do. It seems like the only card in my opponent's deck that has any text is specifically Cataclysm, and we have many cards with text. Yeah, they don't even bother attacking with the Worm. Raven Familiar. Fine pickup. Another Alluren. Let's take the coast, I guess. Play out the Undiscovered Paradise. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to play that Undiscovered Paradise. I'm thinking that I actually want to pay upkeep for this Raven Familiar, so that's why I played it out, in case my opponent deals with both of my birds. But maybe that's a mistake. Untap. Definitely pay for Echo. Don't think I've ever paid for Echo faster in my entire life. Swing for 1. Now we have a clock, folks. The clock is on. Do I play out the Windswept Heath? Don't think so. I only have 1 fetchable left, but I think my life total matters when I'm facing 2 treetop villages on the other side. What an interesting match. This game 3 has been quite delightful. City of Brass. I could just cast this Aluren. I don't think it does anything though. Just forces my opponent to crack their Aura of Silence. Feeder. Well, that shortens the clock, funnily enough, against an opponent with no removal. 3-turn clock, baby. There's one. That is pretty funny. I'm gonna play out one of these walls, just so these treetops don't randomly cheese me. The amount of games that get ended by a Raven Familiar with Spike Feeder counters with this deck is honestly way higher than it should be. Way higher. That was a fun one. That was a very fun one. On to round number 4. The hand looks pretty good, actually. So we can go turn 1 bird, and if my bird doesn't die next turn 2, we can go wall into library. Pretty sick. And any land seems decent here. Let's play my bird. Tranquil Thicket can be potentially a problem. We'll see if there's an Oath of Druid in my future. Library. That I can work with. So here's a wall. Here is the library. I do wonder what I'm up against. We do have some pretty insane draws here that we can have. Opponent does not pay life, which is quite interesting. They're playing Astral Sligh. Oh, I guess we win. Cool. There goes that. Kind of had the nuts here. So we're going to put both of these back on top. And now we're just going to play my Aluren. And now, we're at 19. We basically can't fizzle here. I guess I'll get a Treva's Ruins. And now we're just gonna combo off. Green-white Sligh. That's not a deck that you see every day. So now it's gonna be a matter of executing my combo quickly enough. I'm just gonna stop here and I'm gonna tell my opponent how it is that they're dead. Alright, my opponent's kind enough to concede, and we move on to game number 2. It's actually pretty funny how against the enchantment base deck on the other side, we have access to infinite Monk Realist, which is pretty hilarious. I want to cut Octavi, definitely want to keep Squee. I don't think I want Swords to Plowshares. Bring in Ray of Revelation. So we are going to want the extra copy of Meddling Mage, I think. And we can cut probably some number of Wall of Roots. I could cut Wall of Blossoms. I think I want Library over Wall of Blossoms. I don't think my opponent is going to be particularly good at pressuring my life total. So let's bring in some Naturalizes. And do I want Blessing? It's an interesting question. I think I'll cut the Spike Feeder. I'm bringing the extra Mana War in case my opponent has access to Angel over a wall. Yeah, this looks reasonable. What do we have here? Actually, this seems like a pretty reasonable draw. The turn 2 Monk Realist is kind of hot. Then Mana War my own Monk on turn 3 if I find any land. It's pretty neat. Hey, look at that. That's a land. So if my opponent plays any... Ooh, no second land? Yikes. I hope they don't keep their hand thinking that a Swords to Plowshares is going to be enough. So I have bad news for my opponent if that's what they think. Here's a Meddling Mage. Just going to name Swords to Plowshares. So if they were thinking that Swords was going to save them, get some bad news. We're gonna swing for 2 here. And I guess I might as well cast this Spike Feeder just to speed up the clock. When it fetches on my end step, I imagine some sort of cycle. Yeah, Eternal Dragon. They're hitting land drops now. Still nothing. So let's swing. And now it's gonna be a matter of whether I want to trade with my opponents. I think I'm going to. I'm just gonna throw away one Aluren. Illumination. That is not one you see every day, folks. that's hot. Aura of Silence. That's cool. That's a target for my Monk Realist. Another Aluren. I just like that they allowed me to use Monk Realist for something. See if my opponent has the Wrath. Wall of Blossoms. That's a nice draw. So with everything, they should block Spike Feeder. So we can actually kill this wall. I don't think I'm going to though. I'll take my 3 points of damage. I may regret that, but I think it's better to do this. Here I imagine they have this enchant. Oh, cycle. Nothing. But if my opponent has a Wrath, then I just get super blown out there, because their wall is dying anyway. They took 1 point less of damage, and I also tapped out, so it's kind of a disaster. Yeah, there's the Wrath. So I guess I might as well gain 2 life, which is a card of library. Get to experience the power on any TV tap land. It's a nice pickup. Yes, let's pay all the life here. And now we land Aluren, and we have a lot of draws here. I'll take a team pool, play another familiar. Let's draw another one. Another familiar. It's a Mana War, that's a redraw. Cast Mana War. Bounce. That's a survival. Sure. So I could just try to win right now, or I can just take it slow. I think I'm just going to pass the turn here. Now that we find the survival, like my opponent can Wrath again, that's kind of whatever. They can blow up my Aluren, that's also kind of whatever. Also, they're at 6. I'm definitely gonna Mana War this familiar here. So now they kill that. I'm just going to untap and survival for Harpy and win. I'll actually pay life here so that I have one extra thing to pitch. Survival, get Harpy, cast this, and now we just combo off again. And there you go. This sort of matchup is very, very good for us. Like, as you can see, like Wrath of God just does nothing, just doesn't interact with me really because of all of these little tricks that I get to do. So cool. This is kind of the perfect matchup that we would be able to face. My opponent was not able to interact with my library, and then we kind of went from there. 3-1 now. Okay, so on to the next match. This is 5. I'm going to keep this hand, but this is definitely just a little bit land heavy. Basic Island, Source of Plowshares. Well, if we're playing against Stasis, this is going to suck. But if we're playing against Dreadnought, this is going to be pretty decent here. Green blue, I mean. Avenus? Quiet Spec. Look at this card. Looking pretty hot. Double Deep Analysis, Roar of the Worm. Well, I guess we know what we're naming with this Meddling Mage. Deep Analysis. Please flashback a Roar of the Worm. CD of Brass. So now they can plow the Meddling Mage and flashback Deep Analysis, which would suck a little bit, but okay, so we're not playing against an Oath deck, which is good for me. So now we're going to Mana War, and I will intentionally not keep white, so my opponent maybe doesn't name Source to Plowshares when they replay the Meddling Mage. So this is like a small bluff, I guess. I don't know if it's gonna work. We'll see. Opponent replays the mage. Ha! It worked. Cool. So I'm gonna plow the mongrel first, because that actually enables my opponent's deck. And I think I'm just going to cast Mana War here. I'm just gonna attack with Mana War. I don't think I want to trade the other one. And I want to save the Mana War because I know that there's a Roar of the Worm incoming, and I don't want my opponent to gain 6 life. No blocks, thank you. They could have a second Meddling Mage, which would be bad, but there's the Worm. I'm not playing the land because of... I was thinking if I don't want to play the land because of Armageddon. I don't know if they're actually playing Armageddon, but I definitely don't want to play the City of Brass because they may be playing Port. I don't know what they could be doing over there, honestly. All I know is that this Meddling Mage is really doing work against those Deep Analysis. Source to Plowshares. They're paying some life. Crosses his Catacombs. Wild Mongrel. So now what I want to do is I want to swing with both Mana Wars. Tireless, I'm just going to hold. I'm going to play a land because I'm trying to play around Quiet Speculation here. I'm going to swing with both of these. Circular Logic, not Quiet Speculation. So now my opponent can discard the card, and with that trigger on the stack, I'm going to plow. So they can discard they can discard their entire hand in order to save the Wild Mongrel, but I don't think that's a good line for them. I'm going to hold on to the fetch land because we may draw Sybil Library, and if we do, I definitely want to hold on to the Shuffle effect. There's a Library. That's a target for my Monk. I don't think I'm going to be playing around Armageddon anymore, but I'm definitely going to be playing around Circular Logic. Oh wow, they're flashing back? Down to 4. So now they don't have Circular Logic mana, which means I'm going to attack first, force the trade, and then play the Monk Realist. If they have another Mongrel, that would suck for me though. We also have certain draws that just win the game, like another Mana War. What? What could they have? Pyroclasm? Are they main decking Pyroclasm? Flower Mana War, that sounds great for me. I mean, I do have lethal here if I wanted to, but they could have another Source to Plowshares, so I'm not gonna go for it. I am, however, going to cast my Monk Realist, blow up the library, and then cast the Spike Feeder. But I actually did have lethal if I didn't want to play around Source to Pleasure. Maybe I should have just YOLO'd, but there's just no reason to do that, because now we have 3 creatures which are all lethal. Actually, yeah, it's lethal in the air for the Versa Paradise because of the Spike Feeder. So if my opponent taps low, they just lose, because I just know to go for it. Quiet Spec. Let's see what they got. I doubt they have anything that saves them. Call of the Herd, Cabal Therapy, Roar of the Worm. Okay, so they tapped out. So now they're just dead on board. Not drawing great, but doesn't matter. Opponent was just like daring me. They're like, "Is he gonna see it?" I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna see it. Alright, cool. So Mana War seems very good against my opponent, and so does Source to Plowshares. So we definitely want those. Meddling Mage is kind of interesting. Library seems good, Wall of Blossom sounds good as well, and most of my deck sounds very good. I'm just going to cut some number of Allurens, I'm going to cut Uktabi, I'm going to bring in Auramancer. This is definitely a survival matchup. Can cut 1, maybe 2 birds. Unclear whether I want Ray of Revelation. Medley Mage also interesting. Gaia's Blessing, I think I want. Even if I naturally draw it, I can just I can shuffle my opponent's graveyard cards, which is hilarious. Well of Blossoms and Roots both seem great against my opponent's X3 3/3s and 2/2s and whatnot. I'm gonna cut a couple of birds because we're most likely gonna be playing a longer game. Let's cut 3 birds. I think I like all of my other cards better. This makes me a little bit colder against Armageddon. How do we feel about this? I think I'm gonna keep. Like, I legitimately think that Gaia's Blessing is great here. This is definitely interesting. Like, maybe I should have led on City of Brass just so I can play Medley Mage on 2. But I think this is fine. I don't take any damage now to cast this wall. Opponents out there doing nothing. Plow my wall. It's a bit aggressive. Crosses his Catacombs. Cabal Therapy. I mean, the things to name here are Survival and Alluren, so I'm not super scared about that. I guess it's a little bit cute because now they get to Medley Mage naming something that they know is in my hand. So sure. But I mean, they still wasted a card to do that. Name Source to Plowshare, so now their Source to Plowshares don't work. If they Call of the Herd, I just Blessing Therapy and the Call. Aura of Silence. Reflecting Pool. So do I just name Wild Mongrel here? I'm gonna offer the trade because they can't actually attack into me. I'm just going to. I think I just named Wild Mongrel. It is kind of the scariest thing on this board. So now we get to swing with both. They could have Frantic Search into Roar of the Worm. If they do, C'est la vie. Yeah, that's fine. Guess I just Blessing my own feeder. Or they just hardcast Circular Logic. That's totally fine. It's very much okay. You got me. So let's swing for 2. This is a little bit awkward. I think I just passed the turn. My opponent may get to hardcast Roar of the Worm in this board state. Cabal Therapy. Sure. Play multiple of those. That's really surprising to me. It's also kind of surprising that they have multiple of those against me. I don't think this is a Cabal Therapy matchup. That's a good draw. That's a very, very good draw. Ooh, baby. So now we're cooking. So I guess I pick up the realist here. And I'm going to just do this for value. Opponent can like play anything, just flashback. But I mean, it costs them a card to get rid of my familiar, so this does not seem like that bad a deal for me, to be honest. Now we just get to do the thing, cast the Monk, pull that up, play Survival, pass the turn. So I could actually draw a card here if my opponent doesn't have a removal spell for the Survival, but I think I'm not going to. I mean, I can force the action, so let's do that. If my opponent raise here, I'm just going to get another Raven Familiar. I could turn the Cavern Harpy into something else. I mean, I think I won't. Yeah, they just concede. I definitely wanted another Cavern Harpy anyway, so no need to do that. But there you go, 4-1. Well, folks, unfortunately we didn't manage to play all of the 6 matches, but we got there 2-5 of them, and that was a pretty solid result, 4-1. That's not bad at all for not having played Pre-Modern in like 4 months, maybe? Somewhere along those lines. Man, like this deck is just so much fun, man. I just enjoy it so much every time I get to play it. I think that it's still quite solid. My Cyberdine did not quite work out. I feel like I spent a lot of slots in decks that were not really what I played against. I guess the metagame in MTGO is just different to what you can expect to see in paper. And red seems to remain very, very popular. So I guess that if you wanted to play against red decks, you may want to go towards more Hydroblasts and cards like this. I feel like we played some pretty good matches. I very much enjoy the Treva, the Oath deck. I like that one very much. I think that's one of the next that I'm going to be playing because I've been cooking in that area and I really want to give a shot to the deck that I've been thinking about. But this list still remains very, very solid. I think it works out super well. The only card that I could see switching around would be the single library. I think this card is fantastic, but I don't know if the meta is right now Sylvan Library meta as it was before. The thing about library in a deck like this, like it's just so strong on a base level that even when it's bad, it's still kind of pretty decent. Like we just saw when I got paired, like I mean, that line of turn 1 Birds of Paradise, turn 2 Wall into library, like it is just so strong. Like it's so good when you get to do that, and then all of a sudden you're just insanely ahead. So I think that this is the card that I could consider. We wanted to make room for the 4th Medley Mage, maybe play Sandit Swarm in the main deck, though I don't think so. Honestly, the card that did a lot of work was the Gilded Drake. I could see this going into the main deck. Same thing as Auramancer. Each one of these, I think, that could work. The problem is the more that you go towards 3, like you're already pretty 3-drop heavy. So a main decking Auramancer or the 4th Mana War, it's a little bit awkward. Like 2s just work so much better in this deck than 3s do. That is something that you kind of want to weigh in as you're trying to build here, and that's why library just works so well, because it's a 2-drop. Then you play your bird gets killed, then sure, whatever, you just play your library and then you just move on. So there are also, again, 1-drops that could be interesting, but Scented Storm is just a little bit too narrow for my taste, so I don't think I'd want to main deck one. Anyway, Alluren is just so much fun, and there's a reason why I like this deck so much. But that's gonna be it for me today, folks. I apologize for the audio quality. It is what it is until I figure it out. But until then, if I make other videos, it's gonna be like this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You had a good time. I'm going to try to make some more videos and try to make it a little bit more regularly, but I can't really promise anything. They will happen when they happen, and when you sign up for the league on the very last possible day, no, it's likely that you're not going to be able to close it. But 5 matches was pretty good. It's definitely more than I was expecting, to be honest. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on the way out, and I'll see you in the next video, folks. Take care. Bye bye.